Good morning, everybody. Welcome. It's my favorite day of the week, Thursday, and it's Medwell Unscripted. Remember last Thursday, I said same time, same place. So here we are again with my partner in crime, Emily Waxman, and we're really excited as we're going through our fall series here. This month in particular, we're talking about breast awareness, and we have some phenomenal guests, and we have a phenomenal conversation lined up for all of you. So just some housekeeping, friends. As you join into our live today, be sure to say hello in the chat. If you have questions along the way, please do drop them. We will absolutely answer them along the way. And if you are catching the replay, feel free to leave a comment afterwards. We'll absolutely get back to you. This is live. We are streaming to two Facebook channels and a YouTube channel. So keep in mind, technical difficulties can happen. But I promise you, if one of us bleeps out, we will be back and we'll continue our conversation. So let's get started. So today's topic, we're talking about breast cancer journey with CBD. As we have been starting our series and really talking about breast cancer, we've had some great guests talking about their journey. And today we have no surprise here. We have some rock star warriors with us. First, I'd like to introduce to you Emily Waxman. She's our community outreach. And we also have Heidi Whitman and we have Andrea Panelo. And guess what, friends? We're worldly today because Heidi is in England. So first, so welcome, ladies. We're so excited to have you today. Thanks so much for coming on board and spending time with us this morning. How is everybody today?
Really good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. Very well. Yes. Good.
Awesome. So we're going to get started and I'm going to let you guys tell a little bit about yourselves. I'm going to start with Emily because she's been busy in the medical cannabis community out in the community sharing about the power of medical cannabis. And I know lots of places she's visit are really bringing awareness to Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So Emily, take it away and tell us a little bit about what you are up to this week.
Sure. So I am still continuing my outreach everywhere. So if you see me, make sure you say hello. My primary job over here at Medwell is to help bring education and awareness about how medical cannabis could potentially help you and make you feel better. We want to make sure that you have all the education you need over here at Medwell. So certainly I'm here to help and get you connected with all the folks here that can, help you on your journey. So definitely when you see me out and about, make sure you say hello and I will take it back to you, April, so we can get over to these two rock stars we've got today.
All right. So, Heidi is up next to share, and I just want to share. She sent me some great information, so then I'm going to let her tell a little bit more personal side of what she's all about and what she's sharing with us today. But Heidi, she recently moved from global director strategy role, at Avita Global, where she focused on medicinal medicine and wellness cannabis projects. So I can't wait to hear about that. As a consultant for the industry, she's put in her 6 years of dedication to patient access, affordable programs, as well as activating industry and academic teams to promote education and science-backed evidence across the globe. Wow, Heidi, I can't wait to hear what you have to say and kind of, there's so much synergy here with Medwell and kind of your background. So share a little bit more about yourself.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, April. That was such a long, convoluted way of saying what I do, but it is. I've been focused, just background-wise, always on a holistic means of living, and it's been very challenging. I'm obviously an American. I came over to the UK in 2014, and one of my goals was to find a way where I can incorporate a holistic health regime in my own home and then hopefully translate it off to the communities. And the inspiration typical in cannabis when anyone gets involved in an alternative medicine was a personal story. So my father had a glioblastoma. 2000 was the year that he passed. 99 was the year he was diagnosed. And this particular brain tumor has been proven this year to have better quality of life effects with cannabis relating to its conventional therapies. And my goal when I saw my father suffering was to try to get him cannabis and mushrooms and other things then. And of course, I was absolutely taken away from the hospital setting a couple different times for doing that kind of vigilante medicinal moves. But I really knew that that was something he needed for even the anxiety and everything else that comes with such a horrible diagnosis and knowing that your time is really limited. And so fast forward all these years later, 2016, I started diving into the cannabis space by visiting America. I was living in Europe at the time. And when 2018 rolled around, I got enough of the diligence needed to be able to start my own brand of CBD products. And I did that with my husband and was acquired about 9 months after we did that brand for people and for animals. And it was a really wonderful success, albeit extremely hard because you start it in your living room and you work really hard communicating with everyone you can and try to speak. But of course, we were a little ahead of the time. And I was grateful to be offered an opportunity at Avita Global up until recently, where there's just some internal restructuring going on. So I've decided to consult at this stage. But in the meantime, I got an incredible experience working for a medicinal cannabis company that had all the same thoughts and ethics that I had. And we together were attempting to create patient access, affordability schemes, et cetera, in order to allow people to get the medicine they need. So that is what I've been focused on. From soup to nuts, from the earth to the oil, everything in between is something that I have educated myself experientially, and I can't wait to talk more about it today. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Wow. And I look forward to hearing. So I love the entrepreneurial spirit in your living room because Emily and I come from entrepreneurial families here. So we get that. So I totally love that. I am curious. And before we introduce Andrea, I'm curious what state your dad lived in here in the States. Like, did he have access? Was it, I know at the time, like certain states didn't even have access to medicinal cannabis.
Absolutely not. He had no access. He was in Florida. So he died at the VA up in Tampa. And it was just such a tragedy because it was at 2000. I mean, people didn't, or 99, it was really not even an option. He treated himself with cannabis on the black market for depression and anxiety his whole life. So can you imagine having a cancer diagnosis, being hospitalized and not having what was keeping you steady anyway? On top of, I guess typically we cannot state that cancer is treatable by cannabis, but the side effects are manageable with cannabis. I guess that's the proper way of saying it. But I think we all have different experiences, which is why I'm eager for Andrea to tell her story. But, I think that this is something that frustrated me and it stuck with me and it kind of was under the surface, but you always have to wait because innovation tends to fall way far ahead of regulation. And so regulatory bodies have to catch up with us who have these creative minds and want to promote alternative options.
Definitely.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. Next up, so Heidi actually introduced Emily to Andrea Panelo. She's located in Florida, and she is a breast cancer rock star, kicking cancer's ass survivor. And I would love to hear from you, Andrea, and tell us a little bit about your story. And thanks so much for sharing it with us. Like we're totally honored and blessed that you're here today. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a wild ride, I have to say. 2 years from diagnosis in August of 2020 during COVID was quite a bowling ball to my life. Being under lockdown and having the threat of COVID was incredibly stressful. I created a space at my home that, like we all did, we hunkered down, we stayed home. The breast cancer diagnosis was a stage 2. My breast surgeon initially said, let's do a lumpectomy. We'll do, the biopsies from there and see where, if at all, it has spread. So I went through a variety of testing. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of anxiety in those beginning stages. And at that time, I did not carry my medical card. that came later. And immediately my primary doctor recommended pharmaceuticals, benzodiazepines, things like that to lower my anxiety levels and allow me to at least sleep at night, getting through those initial stages. It wasn't until later, about 4 months down the line, that my oncologist actually suggested, please get off the benzodiazepines and try to get your medical marijuana license. So
Oh,
she
awesome.
recommended it. I pursued it, and about a third of the way through my chemo treatment, I began using medical marijuana.
Wow. Andrea, so like, where are you? Do you mind sharing where are you? Are you on the other side of treatment at this
Yep.
point? Like, where are you?
I'm all done. I've done all of the treatment.
Yay.
Awesome.
I have been finished since end of May 2021. The journey is ongoing no matter what.
Right.
I still visit my oncologist regularly. I have my blood analyzed. They're always checking and making sure that it's not creeping up in another location and a metastasis. So, I will live the rest of my life with a little bit of anxiety that
Of course.
it could come back. And
Yeah.
but I will say that the medical marijuana license was easy to obtain with the proper steps, and we're very fortunate to have a variety of dispensaries in the area to kind of work your way into it. It's not an easy process, and you do a lot of trial and error.
Right.
But it was very, very beneficial, especially through the chemo and the lack of hunger.
Yeah, sure.
You really do not want to eat, and fortunately, the cannabis really helped to stimulate my appetite.
Kudos to your doctor,
I was
too,
just going to say
Andrea.
that. Yep.
Yeah, because I mean, that is not the norm. They usually are not proponents of that by any means. So I love that you had someone who is saying, here, go do this, and supportive. I think that's just phenomenal. So
I was a little bit of a guinea pig for her. And she, in follow-up appointments, she's always asking me, how's it going? How can you reflect on your experience? How can I help other patients? So it is,
love
the
that.
medical side is still very new to the cannabis industry.
100%. But how wonderful that you were willing to be that guinea pig and still be able to have that communication with her so that she can continue to share your experience with others. So I just think that's amazing.
Now, Andrea, when your doctor suggested this, you went through the medical process. I would love to hear a little bit about kind of that first initial walk into a dispensary, like that experience of how that went, because I think, a lot of times, there's stigmas. People have never had anything to do with cannabis. All they think about is kids smoking weed in high school, or so I would love if you don't mind sharing a little bit about kind of your first experience walking into the dispensary and those feelings, and like, was someone there to help you? And you did say you made perfect kind of that dosing, getting that dosing right. Would you mind sharing a little bit?
Sure. It was the first dispensary I walked in was absolutely delightful.
Yay.
Very new, very modern, kind of an evolution in the way a consumer interacts and purchases the products. There are people that help you, and they explain things. They walk you through the dispensary. They have many displays. But you place your order, and then you go to another room where you pick up the order. So it's a little bit of a different shopping experience. It's not where you take a bottle off the shelf and purchase it. You have to go through a process of checking out through your license and then making the order, placing the order. Now I do the order online, and when it's ready, they text me, and I drive right over and pick it up.
It's amazing.
It was really incredible. And the ambiance of the dispensary everyone I go into is unique, but it is a modern shopping experience, not like really any other pharmacy or shopping experience you would find anywhere else.
Right. It's a perfect way to put it.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so Heidi, I'm going to bring this conversation back to you. Let's talk about kind of, so you talked a little bit about your business and kind of, being that entrepreneur, you and your husband is starting in your living room with your CBD company.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about kind of, about the company, why CBD, what you did talk about your dad, but like what made you decide this is what I want to do to kind of get it out to the masses? And I know that you also work with animals, and as a dog lover, I'd love to hear about that too.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let me start with being here in the UK is really unique because what Andrea just described is what people wish for here. We're so far behind. Incredibly behind. And patients, it should be a patient-centric cannabis evolution here, but it's not. So there's a lot of things that America has done that we will eventually catch up with, but hopefully we can finesse things so that the patient centricity is actually a focus on all aspects from the shopping experience all the way backwards to the prescription. And I think that's one of the things that I was very passionate about when I started. Not to say CBD, I was in the CBD world simply because I did not have an in within the medicinal cannabis space. Of course, it's not even legal to grow here. So my company I eventually joined was a vertical operation out of Colombia in Latin America. So there's that to me was very desirable. Okay, we have control of supply and we can bring it over here with the proper licensing to get to these patients. So that was the ultimate dream. Things change, life happens, structures alter. So therefore I am today more educated on how we can better the patient experience here in England, as well as in Europe, where they're already making massive advances in Germany, Switzerland. I mean, there is just so much happening. The rec market's opening up, and maybe finesse what could be a rye possibly from the newbies, the pioneers in America. Maybe there's a way to channel this a little bit better. And that's what I'm hoping to do. So the CBD experience was simply because I couldn't use any form of THC in an over-the-counter product. It was legal here in the UK for people, but not for animals. So the irony was that I created my company for dog and owner and horse and rider, and I did all this wonderful range. I went to launch, and like 3 days later, the veterinary medicines director were like, there's nothing allowed here in the UK. You can't do that. I was like, oh. So I ended up selling it back to the Americans, created from America, made together here, and then brought back to, it was just madness. It wasn't great for the carbon footprint. So, but I did eventually start distributing it in America from America to reduce that sustainable faux pas and at least get the products out to those who needed it on the animal side. Because my background, I had veterinary technician training, and I'm very passionate about the whole family, four-legged, hooved, pawed, whatever, getting whatever I get, and what I get, whatever they get, because therefore we're all balanced together. So that was one of the things. The other part of my passion here, similar to the States and working hand in hand with many of my colleagues in the States, is that the education in science needs to be enhanced. And I have built a wonderful global network of universities, educators, all kinds of people that are interested in maybe implementing the ECS as part of the studies for medical doctors and veterinarians. I mean, we teach the endocrine system, but they don't teach the other system that everybody has besides arthropods. I mean, why are we not teaching this? So I was really focused on that. And I did a lot of work in Latin America this past year with universities who were open to their doors, and they said, bring it, let's do this. And unfortunately, again, life changes, things happen. So that work is paused. However, I hope to pick it back up and then utilize what some of the real educational pioneers have done in Italy, for instance, where they have created a ECS curriculum that's in Italian, and I don't speak it, but I've been talking to this wonderful group that I'm like, how could we possibly bring this everywhere? Because this is exactly what we need. We need to not teach about cannabis in toxicology classes. We need to teach about cannabis as a medicinal plant. And now with the US making strides with psilocybin, psychedelic therapy, ketamine, MDMA, there's a wave, and it's happening here. It's quietly happening, and it's on the outer edge, but that's kind of where I hang out here so that I can start making changes and then becoming, helping normalize what people should have access to. Because if I have, God forbid, a diagnosis where I'm going to need it, there will be nothing stopping me. And I don't want anyone to feel like there is anything stopping them. So I work really closely with patient groups, medical working groups, the parliamentary lobbyists, and I just listen and see and what I can do, me personally, as a cog in this large machine of innovation to make it better.
Awesome. I like
Pretty
that.
amazing, isn't she, April?
Yeah, you are. You're making waves in Europe. So one day we'll see on
Yeah.
CNN.
Hope the waves catch.
Heidi Whitman,
I'm on the ride.
You're making the connections. That's the main thing. Start those connections.
Mm-hmm. Well,
you know what was great too, April? I was talking to Heidi recently, and she said to me, she goes, I just found this study that was done by this woman, Nicole, in the United States. And I go,
stop.
Nicole Demanda? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, we had her on as a guest.
it's amazing.
So
Awesome.
It's really pretty cool that, we've got some research now.
And women in the house, ladies, just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, when I thought of you, Andrea, when I heard this study, because it was presented to the drug science group that I belong to, which are a Project T21 here in London, and they presented it as a case study for all of the attendees. And my jaw was on the ground. This woman was so brave to go get cannabis and psilocybin off, the black market to help correlate her therapy. And really, her results were just incredible. She was like the unlikely superhero. She came out like championing cannabis. And I was like, this is anyone that has had breast cancer, I can't fathom. And knowing when Andrea got it, I was gutted. And just watching her be such a warrior and knowing that she introduced cannabis, I was like, yes, that's what we want to see, because you really are an idol in the realm of those who are patients that don't know what to do or are so scared because of the stigma. I mean, that propaganda years ago, it still hovers,
It does,
Yes.
for sure.
Absolutely.
I think of my father, who tells me that he's never had marijuana, because obviously we talk about it all the time. And he says somebody put it in his brownie once and he's never smoked marijuana and all this. So it's totally a stigma. I'm like, nope, it's not. For him, it is. Andrea, let's talk a little bit about some of, so the products, like what did you find? And obviously this is patient specific. Everybody's different what's going to work, but I'm just curious what products worked kind of to help with your nausea, to help with your anxiety. Was an edible better than something else? Like did you find one product better than another?
Well, it's certainly been an evolution. And in the beginning, I said, well, I'm going to try a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I tried things like chocolates and tinctures. And there's a company that makes a Theragel that's fantastic. I have smoked the original, the actual green part that's called tree or flower or however you want to refer to it, the actual bud. But I have moved away from that, from the actual smoking and the inhalation. I much prefer, and it's all about timing. So if I take a tincture, for example, I have to know that it's going to take 45 minutes to an hour to engage and to actually feel the effects. So it's similar to taking an Advil. You take an Advil, you wait 30 minutes, the pain starts to alleviate. So it's definitely a longer time frame when you take something like a tincture or a Theragel. But those two items I've gravitated towards. I did try all of the gummies, the hard candies, the chocolates. I'm not really about the flavors.
There's definitely lots of different ones.
And sometimes no effect at all from candies. So I think every person is a little different in what they experiment with and then they try taking. I am a huge proponent of the tinctures because I feel like it absorbs through the mouth and through under the tongue, and it's not going to damage the stomach. It's not going to damage the lungs. So like I have found my happy place, definitely.
Yeah, I always recommend those tinctures when patients ask where to begin, because I just think it's a very easy way to dose yourself, and it seems to be you definitely get it in a quicker manner too. So I feel like it's a really phenomenal product.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think what's interesting too, because we're all in literally different places and different states and different countries. Different states have different types of products. Actually, when Nicole was on, she was talking about, the Listerine strips. They actually have those in California. And she was talking about so it's just interesting to hear the different products that everybody has. And I'm sure different flavors vary state to state. So like, in Massachusetts, they label, like what it might be Superman or whatever the strain is. Here in Connecticut, it's not like that. There's no strain name attributed to it. It just gives you the details of what it is, what's in it, and that's it. So, and we also here in Connecticut, there's a pharmacist that we can call that's on call in our dispensaries to ask. So, like if I'm looking for a specific strain that has a name to it, they'll help me find that. So it's just different how states are very different.
Yeah, very.
And it's a bit cyclical, the strains that are available. It's like a season. There would be a season for Blue Dream, and then you won't be able to find the Blue Dream. Then you have to look at a different strain. So it's definitely a science in that you determine whether the indica works for you or the sativa and what percentages. It's really, it's a science, right?
Yeah.
It's a science. And for each person, it's different.
And now, did you use any type of journaling or anything as you were kind of going through like the process, or just kind of used, sometimes it's, people write stuff down. Like, how did you kind of figure out like, hey, I'm taking this off the list. This doesn't work. This works.
I think I just kept a mental list.
Yeah.
There's
that would be
something,
me too. I'm just curious. Like everybody.
there's something called chemo brain that
yes.
you don't want to write, you don't want to listen to music, you don't want to watch TV, nothing. Just leave me to my meditative state.
Yeah.
But without cannabis, I would not be reflecting so positively on the experience, honestly.
Wow, that's just incredible. And Andrea, I don't know if you mentioned, so I apologize if I'm making you repeat yourself, but how did the diagnosis come about? Was it through a yearly mammogram, or?
It was visible.
No kidding.
Oh, wow.
It was visible to the naked eye. Now, several years ago, it came up that I had dense breasts. And so always when I went to a mammogram, I also followed it up with an ultrasound, which is common protocol. And so we were keeping an eye, and I have a son and a daughter. So when my son was born, I breastfed him and I had a clogged milk duct. And lo and behold, that's exactly the location of the cancer 22 years later.
No kidding.
21 years later.
So,
now I make that connection, but my doctors don't make that connection.
Okay.
Interesting. So Andrea, I actually, I had a biopsy. I had mastitis with my second son, and I had a biopsy, same place where that was, although, mine wasn't cancerous. Actually, when they did the biopsy, it just kind of like shredded away, but it's just amazing that, and I have dense breasts too. So it's just always interesting that anyway.
And the irony, ladies, is I'm not even an A cup.
Oh, you poor thing. At least you can smile and giggle now. That's the most
right.
I know. Thank goodness.
Irony, and I like that. That's good.
Well, and there's that messaging, free the tatas, right? It doesn't matter what size they are. Kind of along the lines, Andrea, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about kind of, like as you were diagnosed, I think there's a lot of feelings, emotional, like if you were to give somebody advice going into, going into that diagnosis, because I know, like I actually have to get an MRI every 6 months. Like I'm 35% risked for developing breast cancer, and I stress every time, like it's very stressful, and I can only imagine kind of getting that news. What would you give on kind of advice to somebody?
Well, first of all, I would say, please stay calm. The best thing you can do for your body and your mind is to stay calm. And know that 1 in 8 women are going to have a breast cancer diagnosis. So someone that has been recently diagnosed, I would say, please stay calm. Please listen to your doctors. Follow the instructions. Treat it like it's a project. Just listen to what they say and follow the instructions.
Mhm.
And stay focused on that one thing. Let everything else in your life fade away, because it's not important, everything else.
Right.
Stay hydrated, stay calm, and listen to your doctors.
Great advice.
Very good advice.
Yeah, stay
Great
calm.
advice.
Like,
Very great advice.
Yeah.
if you don't stay calm, you will ruin it all and you will make it worse.
Very true.
And you really, I put it in my mind that it was a science project. This is science. This is science, you know.
It's perspective, right? Yep.
And you have to reason with yourself, and you have to say, okay, this is how I'm going to deal with it internally, but also externally. You have many people in your life that are also receiving the diagnosis and are being affected. So it is very important that you make the decision to be strong, and you make the decision to fight, because it's not your own personal fight. It's for everyone else in your world.
Yeah.
And it's setting the example. I was a Girl Scout as a kid, and I kind of went back to that, like, be the example, set the example.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Heidi, let's talk. So I just want to, you are a vast knowledge, an encyclopedia of knowledge. So where people would learn about kind of some of the things that you're sharing, some of the things of your future projects to follow along, because I know that you have a lot of perspective and experience, and especially, in your new role, kind of maybe not new role, but consulting, like working with businesses and people. How would people find you, and what would be your messaging, I guess, at the end of the day, to people that were really considering medical cannabis or CBD as part of just any treatment? So beyond cancer, we know at Medwell all the conditions that come into our office. So it's it's wonderful. It's okay. Hi, baby.
It's all right. We all have them laying around us, I'm sure.
So share a little bit about kind of, again, how to find you, and just some knowledge of like what people should know.
Well, thank you. I'm stating I'm a consultant at the moment because I am consulting, but I am looking for a permanent work home, and then I can continue doing my other work on the side if it works for my new company. But on LinkedIn is probably the best place to find me, under Heidi Whitman. It's really easy because LinkedIn doesn't block. And I have a wealth of knowledge that I'm willing to share with anyone that is looking to better their lives, to better themselves, who isn't advantageous and looking to start a company and use all my past ideas, but more or less looking to help someone, a loved one, a friend, a person, anyone. And we get these calls a lot. Similar when I used to run an animal company, I still get calls from my Floridian clients from forever ago that asked me advice on their new puppies and new dogs. I mean, I'm always giving advice because I think that's the way the world should work, collaboratively and not competitively. And with this cannabis, it's important to have a good source, and it's so hard to figure out what to believe. And if there's studies that people need, I have collections of them. I have like little document libraries, that I keep some of the most recent information. And also there's a lot of internal groups that are forming on Facebook, on Instagram. Not that every social media based group is loaded with all the truths, but it's like, for instance, and it's a little bit different, but I had fibroids and I had to have a hysterectomy, and I joined a fibroid group on Facebook, and my God, they were the most helpful women. I needed them for my entire process, the journey, the cannabis afterwards, rather than the morphine, everything that I had to go through. They were there for me, and they were just a bunch of strangers. So I'm happy to steer anyone in any direction for the betterment of themselves and others. And when it comes to their animals, I have a silly amount of information in my brain when it comes to cannabis and animals, because I've been focused on it for so long, and I'm just too ahead of so many regions where the legality isn't there. But we do test on animals to give it to people, but we're not giving it to our animals. And that's my biggest question to all the authorities. What sense does that make? So we've proven it's safe, we've proven it's effective, but you can't give it to Fido, and that doesn't make sense to me. So I'm hoping that will be my next thing that I keep, even if it's on the side, persevering while all the while I'm looking for the humans to be able to get their access to have affordable medication. And the best. So LinkedIn is the way to go for me. It's just the best way to find any professional publications or documents that you need.
Awesome. I am actually having a hard time logging into my LinkedIn right now. It wants my two-factor. So I will drop a link when we get off. Coming soon, friends. I love that. I lost my question that I had, but Emily, do you have any other questions? Like, this has been very insightful, ladies.
I know. I think I'm just processing everything because it was a wealth of information, and it's just, a blessing to have the two of you here and share all this information with our audience today. And I would love to have you both back down the road to, give us updates and have you on again because it was really just a phenomenal show today. Thank you both so very much.
Oh, thank you.
I know what my kind of question or thought was about the platform, right? So you mentioned the communities on Facebook. Like, I mean, I think before COVID we had it. COVID really kind of brought out the community sense that's worldly and all of these things. So there is a way for people to connect. Like, we're using this platform to reach people. There's so many ways that you can connect with people online, whether you're in the UK, whether you're in Florida, whether you're in Connecticut, whether you're in Massachusetts. But I do especially like how you said not everything is true. So you always want to make sure that you find the right community, that you feel comfortable, that your little voice inside you is saying, yes, these people know what this is my people.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, double check, just double check. Just ask a couple different sources. I think that's the best way. And then go with your gut. Like Andrea said, she knew something connected to that cancer from 22 years ago. We know our bodies best. And as cannabis is very personalized medicine, and that tricky factor of figuring it out, be in touch with me if you're interested in some of the other innovations I have been talking to in regards to figuring out what cannabinoids you actually need. And I think that's the next stage. So I'm working on something.
Awesome. Well, that's a lead into having you back. We can talk more about
exactly.
Oh, Andrea, Heidi, thank you so much for your time today. Emily, thank you again for your time. My partner in crime every Thursday.
Yeah.
Friends, we'll be back next Thursday, same time, same place. We're going to continue our talk surrounding Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And if you are catching the replay, friends, please do feel free to leave a comment, a question, and I will post Heidi's information shortly here once I can figure out my technical difficulties with LinkedIn right now. Thanks again, ladies. Everybody have a phenomenal day, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same place.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.